This is a video on I guess a new toy I bought. Is a game or a puzzle. I don't know what you want to call it. It's a pretty neat thing though. It's called Buckey Balls, and when you buy it in a cube like this, which is 216 balls. And what they are is just basically a magnetic BB. So they're 5 millimeters, a little bit bigger than a typical BB, but they're literally BBs that just happen to be magnetic. So there's two of them together, and I've got a bunch of them here on the table. Take a look at just to kind of get you an idea, what you do with a bunch of BBs. There's a set of 3, there's 4, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. But it's not quite that simple. I mean, obviously that'd be fun, I guess, if you're a little kid or something. But you can get 3 in this shape, or of course, you can get 3 in a triangle shape. These things sort of have their own behavior, or I guess it's just the properties of magnetism. But once you've got these things in a row, and it just happens naturally, they've got a positive and a negative end, then they start to behave with certain behaviors. So this little guy's tough because he's so lightweight that he wants to attract all these other ones. Let me show you something though, like this one with 9. It's when you take 9 of these little magnetic BBs, again, these are only held together by magnetism here. When you take 9 of them though, you get them in a row, or the polarity and everything will suck them into a circle like this. So they just fell down here and stuck on a piece of metal. So I just shaped them back into that ring again. But now if I pinch that ring and then sort of smash the bottom up a little bit, and you get the hang of this once you play with these for a couple minutes, all I did is sort of smash that ring around and turned it into a triangle. And watch, if I fiddle with the triangle too much, it'll just turn right back into a ring. And that's sort of hopefully a little insight into how these things are so neat, how it's so clever. And I don't know if you've taken a geology or a geometry class or a trigonometry class, but what I remember, this stuff really helps clarify some of the principles, I guess, is one way to say it. Something else that's kind of neat, if you take 7 of them, like I mentioned with 5, is when you just start to get a little hole in the center of them, when you have 5 of them in a little ring. So with 7 you can add one, there's that ring of 5, and then you just add 1 to the center on either side. So that's kind of a neat shape. With 8, of course, you can do 2 rows of 4 to make a small cube. I mentioned the triangle and the circle with 9. With 10, you've got some other options. You got 2 rings of 5, and they can be held either this way, so that the balls are touching each other and they're lined up sort of squared off to each other, or this way where they're sort of brick, overlapping each other. It might make it a little clearer if we hold them up next to each other here, and you can see that these are lined up sort of squared off, where these are lined up next to each other. And I'll just take some of these and attach them to each other, and it'll give you a better idea of what they look like when a row of them is lined up. Or like these, where they interlock and they sort of form a tower of these interlocking circles of 5. Now what happened to me with this one that were next to each other or squared off, it sort of fell apart. And when something falls apart in the world of these little magnetic circles, it basically eventually just comes back to a line, or it just turns into a mash like this. And that's another aspect of it, is that you can get them to just mash up like silly putty or something. So that's sort of the building blocks, I guess. And then if you look at the container there, there's some idea, but just check out the YouTube stuff. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do, little puzzles and things. This is a sheet of them, and you saw that this basically was just a row of them, a string of them. And again, there's nothing holding any of these together except magnetism. But this is just a row of them, and they just become these little shapes. It's just happening. And you can see the 2 types of bonds. On the outside I have the squared off type of bond, and on that middle row, on this row in the center, they've got that sort of touching bond. So that's the two different ways you can get these to connect with each other. And it turned into a loop. I snapped the loop and it's a string again, and I can just continue to either take off layers from this little spiral or just keep adding layers to the spiral. They just sort of connect themselves. And it's just fun to play with these things and see what kind of shapes develop as you count different numbers of them or apply patterns to each other. If I were to take enough of these circles of 9 and turn them into triangles, and I've only had these for a couple of days, so of course I'm still getting used to them. But if I flip it, and then now I can start to stack them again, and now they get, imagine a long stack of these in a triangle shape. That'd be pretty cool looking. So there's lots and lots of things you can do to play with these things. And like I say, since they're really just big magnets, you get them in a big pile and mash them together. Watch some of the YouTube channels that put in magnetic balls or put in Buckey Balls and Neo balls. You'll get a lot of different people making lots of different shapes and things with them. They're just a lot of fun. So if you have an office job, I used to have a job on the telephone. This would have been a perfect little fun thing to play with. Kind of a mindless game. But I can't put it down. A lot of fun. They cost $30 if you buy them at like a mall or something. But if you shop around on eBay, you can get a set like this. Instead of paying $30 for a set of these, you can get them as low as $15, even $12. If you buy them from Hong Kong, you get them for like $10 a brick. So anyway, thought I'd just introduce them. If anybody's interested, little magnetic ball game puzzle type of thing. So these Buckey Balls come in this sort of plastic package because I want to be sure not to attract the magnetism of the balls. I'm going to use this titanium seal diving knife. It's also a survival knife. And this way I can cut the little piece of plastic there and not have to worry about magnetism. And then the top opens up. And then there's this little plastic thing. And I guess I should have left that thing out, but I really prefer to use scissors because it's sealed in this little cube thing, and there's nothing you can do. You've got to cut it out. So like I say, I'd rather just use scissors for something like this. And I'm cutting around the edge because I found that if I wanted to keep them in here again, I can just take like a hole punch and punch a couple of holes and then just clip something there to keep them handy in here. And then I kept the one side uncut, and then that way it becomes like a little holder for them. So when you get them, they come in this cube, and there's nothing fancy. They're just stuck in a cube. There's 216 of them, which is 6 cubed. 6 with the little cube sign above it. And if you do the math, that's 216. So it's 6 by 6 and then 6 deep. So it really helps you with your math. Anyway, you just kind of smash into it, and you're back to having just a chaotic blob of these things. And then as you sort of just keep playing with them, they'll pull apart and become their own sort of entity here. And they'll just become a string. Anytime the string touches itself, it'll usually turn into a little loop or whatever. And I just drop some. That's the biggest problem with them so far, is when they drop them, they're magnetic. So if you drop them near like a metal chair, they're likely going to just stick to the chair somewhere, and you don't find them for half an hour or ever. So anyway, there's you get these strips of them, and then you take the strips and you lay them down next to each other so that they become a parallel bond like this. And I do that 3 times. Oops. Let's see, that's the wrong kind of bond. I wanted the parallel bond, so I'll just peel that edge away again. And now I've got that nice parallel bond that I want. Basically just switch the polarity. Whenever you get the wrong kind of bond, disconnect them and put them back together, and you get the right kind of polarity. And I'll just take these last few and try to get them into a couple of strips as well. And you can see that you can sort of force them to do what you want, and then they just sort of shift around on their own and figure out what they need to do to listen to you. And all I'm trying to do here is get them back into 3 strips, and then I'll fold those 3 strips over, and then that will be 6 strips, and then I can fold that up and turn it back into that cube that I'm looking for.